We mentioned before on an episode, you really can't keep great therapists forever, right? Because they're going to break out of that mold. But how do you keep them happy while they're there? Happy, well-trained therapists make great PTs. They make great healthcare. So,
Jimmy, good morning. Feeling great. And in case Tony happens to be tuning in live on a run or something, he'll notice my AirPods are in and he might get upset. But Tony, I got my microphone, my Yeti plugged in, and we're just using this to block out some background noises. Let's just keep it like that.
Okay. And from the former radio guy, stop touching the microphone. Okay? Stop touching it. Picks up sound. All right. So Tony is out, but we're actually going to bring him in. He doesn't even know this, but he's going to be here just not only in spirit and mind. But let's kick off today's conversation on PT Breakfast Club with some conversations that are going around the internet. We have our fingers right here on the pulse of the profession, and some results have been coming out this week, and people always eager to share successes and failures. You like to see that too, people sharing publicly failures and how to rebound from them because it happens. And a big one is results came out just a couple days ago. A lot of our colleagues now are a little heavier in terms of their email signature, and they've got more letters after their name. I'm talking, of course, about clinical specialist examinations. And for maybe those PT students, or I heard from some pre-PT students who actually listen to the show and the streams and when we put these things, clinical specialization, Dave, how would you frame it? It's school for people who want to go to more school.
I think that is the perfect way to frame it. Just advanced degrees, really. Or advanced certifications. Yeah. It's not degrees, it's certifications.
Certifications. So more specialization maybe in your practice area. Some examples. I'm not going to list them all because I'll miss one and then you'll be angry at me. Orthopedic clinical specialists, sports clinical specialists, women, pelvic health clinical specialists, pediatrics, geriatrics. So different areas of physical therapy practice that you can specialize in. You go and take this examination, and if you pass, poof, you are now a more competent and confident physical therapist, as we say. So this question, one of my new favorite websites, I was big on Reddit maybe 5-6 years ago, and then took a Reddit purge. But now I'm back on it, baby. I got the notifications and everything. And this was a great question posed by Maestro. It almost looks like Maestro Clitoris, but it's not. That's the person's username. Hi, my annual review is coming up, and I just passed my OCS exam. Congratulations. How much money should I ask for? Which is not an invalid question, right? They back it up by saying they work at an outpatient clinic in Pennsylvania. They're currently at $85K a year with 5 years of experiences. Annual reviews coming up, and with a newly obtained OCS title, how much raise should I ask for? Well, first of all, you've been out for 5 years. You're in Pennsylvania with $85K. We're going to talk about that. But Dave, you're somebody who employs other clinicians. Tony will weigh in on this on the next time we have him on the stream, but I wanted to get your thoughts. Does adding the OCS to someone make you, someone who employs clinicians, automatically give them a raise if they came to you? If this person came to you, what would Dave say?
No, it does not automatically give a therapist a raise. It might be shocking. By the way, that music playing, I thought it was another thing in my browser. So I'm like, I got this music playing.
Oh, you got there clicking?
No,
sorry, I turned that off.
Yeah. Okay, we're good. I didn't want to say anything, but now I said it. It's all good. It was going. Okay, so no, I mean, it doesn't necessarily result in a higher salary. It depends on the intent and all of that. And yes, I mean, you also shared with us in the chat with Tony and I a screenshot that we'll get to as well about, I think it was a comment, and then you replied to it. So that person's comment, I believe in, and we can maybe pull it up on the screen in a minute, but it does not automatically result in a raise. Unfortunately, the biggest driver of all this, again, it all comes back to reimbursement and insurance and all that. So that is not increasing. It's, plateauing, or in some cases shrinking or declining. So it's hard to say, okay, now you have your OCS, which, by the way, that should be no surprise. Every practice is probably helping these therapists, right, go into the OCS or GCS or whatever, and they
should be, hopefully
they should be, right, and they might even be covering it. So that's I don't know. I think it's maybe a couple $1,000.
I think someone was just telling me, I think it's like $1,500.
Yeah.
When all is said and done, when you got to pay for all the little nickel and dime fees that they hit you with.
Yeah. So all of this, by the way, I believe, like, regardless of the size of the practice, organization, whatever, like that should be discussed ahead of time. So, like, if Jimmy's a therapist in my practice, and if Jimmy comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm looking to sit and get my OCS," like, we would have a conversation about it. I'd be like, "Oh, interesting," or maybe if the employer, especially if the employer is saying to their staff, like, "Hey, we have a tract where you can, get an OCS or do this or that, and we'll pay for it or whatever." There should be some conversation. Maybe it's not. I feel like there's these comments on Facebook and Reddit and all over because the employer is probably not saying, "Oh, by the way, like, this is going to be great for you, your resume, your confidence, your differential diagnosis, whatever it might be." But in that conversation, if it's brought up by the employer or me in this case with Jimmy as my pseudo physical therapist, I think it's kind of on me to say, "Hey, here's what that would look like. Here's what that would do for your clinical practice. But, oh, by the way, here's what it also could do for your compensation." I think that needs to be part of the conversation. And the fact that it's not is why these therapists go online and write all these comments.
We can turn this into Reddit as well. If you're watching a live stream, you can drop a question or a comment. You want to chime in below, you can do that. We did have comments because that's how Reddit works. I mean, I'll get into some of my thoughts, but I wanted to share some of what these came up. Let's see. No, let's do this one. Yeah. Josh Funk, Rehab to Perform, chimed in. Raise plus potential employee classification change. Example, staff PT to senior PT, salary change, and benefits improvement. Now, Josh is the kind of person, though, that here's the key that Dave mentioned that I want to highlight. This is, to me, the hinge point. Josh lays this out before you start, I'm guessing, I don't know this, before you start working for Rehab to Perform. There is a clear track and clear progression. Now, someone like Josh or a forward-thinking clinic owner says, "Well, I can't bill more for somebody who has their OCS." Maybe you can, right? I mean, I worked at a clinic where I was a new grad PT and the rate was cash-based, was X, and to work with one of the senior PTs was different. And people understood that because we explained it differently. We explained the value proposition differently. Jimmy's great. Someone else has been doing it longer, and you can pay for that, right? So the reimbursement from the insurance company might not be different. That's flat. They don't care. That's okay. You know who does care? The person you're putting your hands on, the person looking you in the eye, that patient might care. So if you can explain that value, can you get more for giving more? I just mentioned, it's $1,600 to get your OCS, I believe, after fees, on top of if you pay for resources to study with it. By the way, my podcast offers one of those resources, one of the sponsors of the show, the Academy of Orthopedic Physical Therapy, Current Concepts. That's the one I did a Twitter poll. That's the one most people use, right? So you're talking $1,600 in fees plus, $300-400 in resources. You are investing in yourself. Fantastic. How can you reap that reward? Can you, as a cash practice or a practice that is going to bill insurance and build this into a tract? Because as we mentioned before, one of the leading causes of burnout is not seeing a clear path to growth. If you can't see that, you're going to feel frustrated. But I'm guessing someone like Josh Funk right there says, yes, he was able to respond rather quickly after I posted this. He didn't make this answer up. This answer is baked into the cake. He didn't think about this. John DeLucci, also on LinkedIn, he said he would research internally before taking too much external feedback. I take this as John saying, like, hey, before you just walk into your boss's office slinging guns, 6 shooters, like he's saying the same thing, which is like, make sure you understand what your employer is talking about or where this goes. Do this before you sign up for the test, because ironically, results are going out right now. It's also time to sign up for the next clinical specialist examination season. This thing is just circular, round and round. It's like a carousel, up and down. So John is saying, like, gather objective data, tangible performance data. See, I like this. John's saying go in armed with information. This makes Dave nod and smile. Why does this make you nod and smile?
Because it needs to be backed up by something objective. And like if you're speaking to a decision maker, a manager, a director, especially some co-owner or an owner of a practice who's going to be the main decision maker, I want to see that. I want to see objective data, because otherwise it's just subjective and it's like touchy feely. It's like, oh, this is good because because I alphabet soup after my name, or no therapist says this, but again, it's about my ego, and I'm complete. I'm better. I'm completing more things. I'm doing more things. But then it's like, yeah, but like, are you getting more Google reviews? Are you having lower cancel no show rates? Are you getting more word of mouth referrals that are coming back and saying, I want to work with Jimmy, and as opposed to I want to work with Concierge Pain Relief. So those are the things you should also consider making objective. You present that to your employer, then the employer's like, oh yeah, you're right. Like if we did this, like you're showing like objective improvement or objective findings or support for this. It makes it a lot easier. And again, all this should be discussed ahead of time. The fact that then a therapist goes, I kind of get it. By the way, when I first read some of these things this morning, I was like, I can't wait for this episode. I'm going to be yelling in the microphone. These therapists are ridiculous. But again, some of the blame does need to go onto the side of the employer, because there's obviously a lack of communication. So again, therapist gets their OCS or advanced certification. They go on Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, wherever, and either complaining or asking about this or that with a raise. I mean, all that should be discussed. Like, how come the employer is not saying, okay, you have 5 years experience, you sit for your OCS. If you get your OCS, it'll include a bump of whatever, and it might be like, or if you want to raise in salary 5 or 10% or whatever, maybe that includes XYZ other responsibilities that we're going to kind of add into your whole role.
But you as the clinic owner should be able to get more out of someone with more experience. Like, you should be able to make sure that you can convert on that. Now, we're watching a live stream. If you happen to be watching the podcast, I'll narrate it for you. Dave, I want you to turn to your right on the camera. Rotate right, so you're facing me. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. I like this. I like this. We're gonna do. Are we going to do role play?
Here's how this discussion
I'm turning
is
like
right
this
now. Right now, it's Jimmy McKay saying, "Hey, boss, I got my OCS right now," and Dave's thinking, "Cool story, bro. Tell it to someone else." Now, right now, we're opposed. This is me trying to get a raise from Dave, going, "Hey, man, right, give me some more money." But what I think having the conversation beforehand does is, now face the camera, Dave. Now we're on the same team. Like, we are both on the same side here. I want you to advance as a therapist. You want to make more money. I want you to make more money, because if we can make more money, it's a we thing and not a, hey, give me, it's a stick up. It's not a stick up here, right? So having that conversation early, which is what I like about Josh Funk, is he built this into the cake. He's like, how do I keep therapists around longer? We mentioned before on an episode, you really can't keep great therapists forever, right? Because they're going to break out of that mold. But how do you keep them happy while they're there? Happy, well-trained therapists make great PTs. They make great healthcare. So this conversation needs to happen before it's sign-up time right now in July 2024. If you're just signing up willy-nilly, and I just texted a friend who's like, I'm going to sign up, find out what this gets you besides being more confident. And that's a great investment in yourself. But if you'd like to see a return on your investment, and you should because you're a fantastically qualified healthcare professional, have the conversation first.
Can I? So I'm going to mention, this is my opinion. This is, I know this goes out to PT Pintcast and Learn Medicare Billing potentially also today. But this is my opinion. And this is against like the corporates and the mills. Okay. So if you are potentially working for one of these higher volume places, and they allow you, they pay for you to go to your OCS, whatever. And let's say it might even have been that therapist that posted on Reddit about, hey, I'm 5 years out. I just got my OCS. What type of raise should I ask for? I could if I had to bet $1,000, I would bet that person in general that asked that question would be working for a larger corporate or mill, because a lot of these corporates and mills have the recruiting power, and they know that they're going to have people come in and out. They have a whole system built for recruiting and hiring and all that. And they don't I don't want to say they don't care, because of course they don't want therapists leaving. But
Sure.
a therapist who leaves a private practice is significantly more damaging and challenging for the practice owner compared to a corporate that, it has a booth at every conference and can outspend everyone on Indeed ads or whatever. Like those corporates, they have more slots because they have more therapists, right? So they have more slots.
They can absorb the loss.
They can absorb the loss. They have more slots for DPT students, right? So they have a bigger net in terms of like the minor league system of like bringing therapists up through DPT clinical rotations and then hiring. So they don't have to communicate this. I mean, or they feel like they don't have to. They feel like they don't have to say, okay, we'll pay for your OCS, and then it includes an increase of salary or roles, responsibilities, whatever. And it probably goes back to some of the insurance ceiling with payment and reimbursement. Like they don't want to be like, hey, here's how you can ascend and climb up the ladder in the organization, which is different than Josh Funk, who, I mean, he's got 10 locations, which is pretty darn big scale and pretty impressive. But he's still focused on everything that he puts out, everything, all the decisions, whatever. It's as if like he's still operating as like a 3-person practice or something. Like he really does care. Arguably he cares a lot more than, and he likes to be open and transparent and communicate that with his staff. And that's the difference between his comments about this as opposed to some of these others. And I could almost bet that in general, when someone asks this question, they're working for some bigger place that doesn't really care about the whole ladder being built out and communicating and having a collaborative, like we did the little role play and the whole collaborative thing. They have so many candidates. They probably feel like they don't need to. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between growing and scaling. I feel like Josh is trying to grow or practices like that. And I know it's more than rehab to perform. We keep mentioning Josh just because he had that comment, but I think it's the difference between growing and scaling. Where scaling is like, how do I put a 0 behind this? And clinics going from 5 to 10, they're trying to put a 1 behind. They're trying to add 1 instead of multiple. They're trying to plus 1 instead of 10x. And you do that by, you can only do that by retain. You can't lose 2 therapists, is my guess, at a location and stay afloat for long, is my guess.
Real quick, shout out to Will Boyd joining in live. Thank you for the comment, Will.
Yeah, we gotta have Will on the show and Josh. We mentioned Josh in the last couple of weeks.
And Josh should have his own show or podcast.
He does. Well,
he does.
Yeah, the Rehab to Perform does. I talked about him with him a couple of years ago, and I was like, "There's no reason you shouldn't." They do.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
So, bottom line, ask first. If it's not in place, bring a proposal. I want to mention another metric that someone had said. I can't remember who said it though, so apologies. I'm good at that. I remember the quote, but not the author. Track your show versus no-show, your cancellation rate over 6 months. Give it like a decent amount of time and see if it's different than some of your coworkers.
Okay, that was, I think, that was like an Instagram comment, I think, that you shared.
Yeah, that was a quote I had on Instagram. I asked this question on Instagram. Why is that important, Dave?
So you want me to read it? I have it pulled up.
Yeah. Who said that? Give credit.
At the Pelvic Mama. All right. So she commented to you on Instagram. So at the Pelvic Mama said, OCS here, and this is my take. Document your cancellations and no-shows versus what you produced in the past or versus other clinicians, which is genius. Yes. This is what we're talking about. They said, I saw my productivity increase tremendously. Not sure if it was because I projected more confidence subconsciously as I felt I finally understood what I was doing, or if my skill sets actually improved too. But patients would show up like clockwork to my appointments and even suggest that they were about to cancel, but came when they heard that they were seeing this therapist. So yes, the numbers of improvement, they said, but you have to show consistently high numbers that you can take to your boss and ask for that raise. I did, and I got it. And then Jimmy, you commented, positively. So That is how you approach this. If your employer does not give you the track with here's the raise bump, here's the increase in compensation or roles or responsibilities or whatever.
Speak my language, man. Talk to me about me. It's the sexiest sound I'll ever hear. And talk to me in my language, right? That's why I learn all the hip, cool kid jargon, skibbity toilet, my friends. Like, understand how to talk to people in their language and their ears perk up. So talk to me about why your batting average is 20 points higher than, it's why the stat wins above replacement.
Yeah, WAR.
Yeah, your WAR above replacement is like when you're at work and you're in the lineup, we do better. We win more. So I want to not lose you because you're.
As a baseball fan, I can't believe I never made that connection. So thank you, Mr. Yankee fan here.
War. It's all about war. All right. So would love to hear from you. I have this post up on all my socials, but you can comment on a live stream or wherever, even if you're watching recorded. Would love to know your experiences too, because I understand this. We're giving tactical advice, or what would you do? And this is not a vacuum, right? I bet you some people have done things like this, and bosses have said, tough, not giving you the raise, right? Here's a question for you. She mentioned, the pelvic mama had mentioned that she felt more confident when she had her OCS. Is this like chicken or the egg? People who sign up to take a clinical specialist exam think that they can pass that exam or think that they're worth it or going through the experience is worth it. Those people probably feel more confident. And then that confidence, is that contagious? So is it self-selection bias? I think I'm using that term, right? Like,
probably
the people who are self-selecting for this probably are good clinicians.
Yes. And then once they actually get the OCS or whatever, the neuro or the geriatric or whatever certification, then they pass it. And then they even have more confidence now. So it like steps up a level.
Right. It's confirmed.
Yes. And arguably, like, I think those therapists typically have like better, maybe patient communication styles, like they're outgoing. They already are they already kind of have the total package. Now they just add something else and it boosts their right. I don't want to say like their pride, their ego, a little bit of, a little bit of all that.
It's badge value. You know what I mean? It's badge value. Will Boyd giving like another perspective on this. If you view yourself as a revenue producing team member, you're in the lineup, you're on the team, especially in a small practice, even more important if you're in a small practice, because it's a smaller boat, man. You're not on an aircraft carrier or on a destroyer, and you track your own metrics like you're a small business owner within the small business, right? Trust me, man, as a former has-been baseball player, I knew pretty much what my average was. I knew my last 10 at-bats. I knew how many strikeouts I'd had. So track your metrics like you're a small business owner within the small business, and you can demand more pay.
Amen.
It's just showing stats. And that's what it talks someone's language.
My first couple of years out of school, I know recently I was telling you guys that my first job was a physician in practice in New Jersey. I did this. I tracked within the medical record or something, I tallied up. So there were a couple of different therapists. There was a senior part-time physical therapist. There was a PTA who was full-time. There was myself and another physical therapist that were full-time. I compared my completed visits to the other full-time physical therapist, and that therapist, we were kind of around the same like age and experience level and all that, right? I forget the number, but on like an annual basis, like looking back I was about to sit down with the guy who like is the physician and the physical therapy like practice manager, so the decision maker. I prepared for this. I forget the number, but I had completed it was like dozens and dozens, maybe even like 100 or something visits difference, 100 or two, like a lot more visits than my counterpart of like, we're both full-time physical therapists and we have the same years of experience, whatever. And I knew that therapist completed visits, and I took my productivity and that therapist's productivity, and I said to the practice manager, I forget, I went to some like little calculation, whatever. I'm like, if you're making $100 or whatever dollars per in revenue per visit and times here's times the extra visits that I saw above my counterpart.
Right.
That delta, I came up with some number, and then I said a percentage of that number, and it was like I said $10,000. So I was like, my raise should be $10,000, and the practice manager laughed in my face.
Wow.
Yeah.
What year was this?
2012 or 2013.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I think we've come a long way since then.
I don't know. The practice manager, by the way, not a clinician, and oversees this big physician group, ortho surgeries and physical therapy, whatever. So they laughed in my face. And then a year or so later, when I was moving up here to Brooklyn, that practice manager was like, "Oh, we heard that you're leaving." By the way, I gave like a month notice, by the way, which I think is appropriate. I gave a month notice. We got to the end of that month, and then the practice manager asked me to stay for another like 2 or 3 weeks to help with coverage. I was like, "Have a nice life. Bye-bye."
No. What is your opinion on notice? How long do you?
It's got to be a month. I mean, if you're a professional, like I think it maybe depends on the situation, but I would love, like I did it even though I had a bad taste in my mouth, even for them at that point. You know what I mean? And I was just a staff physical therapist. If I'm a clinic director, absolutely a month or more.
Yeah.
Will, you know me, man. You know me. And
in pediatrics, it was funny because I was in pediatrics, and when I was hired, Amy, my mentor, was like, "Just promise me one thing," because it was different in peds. She was like, "These kids become attached to you." She's like, "You got to give me like a month and a half, because like we have to get the kid used to you leaving and someone else coming." And I was like, "Oh, I never thought about that." But she had seen it, and it was not about a money thing with Amy, and good beginnings, by the way, in Virginia. It was not about a money thing. It really was about like the children. And she goes, even more, just as much as the kids, it's the parents too. The parents would start to freak out, like, "What? You're leaving? You can't do that to us." What is your current stat in your adult baseball league right now? What you're betting?
I love this, Will. We actually don't. I wish we used an app, because 2019. This is before COVID. I played for some league in Central Park, and they track like with the Game Changer app, and I led the league then in like average and hits and I think RBI or whatever. But this weekend league I played now, it's a men's league. It's kind of a hodgepodge. Like the catcher calls balls and strikes.
You can't.
Yeah. We wear we wear our old high school and college jerseys, so it's less serious. So I don't know. I do have 2 home runs this spring so far.
There you go.
But not.
I'm a 2 point per game Wednesday night beer league player, just in case anybody keeps track.
All right, there we go.
Beer league from Hippo Scribe as well. Anything else you want to add for this? I think we covered this one. This, for me anyway, all I wanted to go into this.
Also, so we'll tag the therapist at Pelvic Mama. Tavani, connect with her. Go follow her on Instagram. And Will is probably, or either currently or used to, probably running her pelvic floor Facebook ads or whatever. I know Will has been doing supporting pelvic floor physical therapists like crazy, helping them grow their practices. So that's awesome.
All right, second topic of the show. I'll put it up on the screen and I'll read along. Here's a math question. This one, I'm in the Uncaged Clinician. I feel like they should have their own energy drink. Uncaged Clinician Facebook group. Great group there. I love the anonymous feature, by the way, on Facebook, and how you can ask questions anonymously.
Why? Are you serious?
I kind of like it because some people don't want to know, or they don't want to be known. So the question is about, we'll get into why you don't like that. The question is about cash-based gym opportunity. Not everybody's as bold as you or me. The question about cash-based gym opportunities. This would be their first foray into this type of practice model. So they're relying on others' experience. This is like a math question. And I think this is one of the big reasons people don't take leaps is it's loss aversion. No one wants to get hosed. We fear losses. I just did an Instagram reel on this, on the theory of loss aversion. We are more afraid. I'm making up numbers. We're twice as afraid of losing as we are of winning. I'm so scared I'm twice as scared of losing $50 as I am at potentially making $100. And this is across the animal kingdom. I'll get into that too. So here's the question from the clinician. There's a new gym opening in their area. They're offering up 10 by 12 clinic rooms. Now, I am a grammar guy, so I will pay attention to this. Clinic rooms as contracted space. Because I stop right there and I go, rooms? Are you not the only clinician that's going to be there? Rooms?
Correct.
Are you having competition within your own environment? But we'll get into that. So I see that plural rooms, and I go, whoa, 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 whoa.
Or it could be like acupuncture, one PT, one chiro.
Right, but I would want to know
still competition,
more
still potentially competition.
Right, I'm not moving into a strip mall, and you're going to have a Qdoba next to my Chipotle. I'd be like, oh man, sorry man, I'm the king burrito around here. Jim is going to provide a scheduling and payment platform. That's interesting. /EMR, supplies, including table, needles, IASTM tools, cups. This is crazy. Referrals would likely be easy, proximity. Gym members, personal training clients. I would still operate under my own LLC and liability insurance. Their offer is a 50-50 split. I am not a math guy, but this feels, man, they already have their hand not even a little bit in your pocket.
And down your throat.
50-50 split on whatever income my appointments make. Given the conditions above, does it seem like good terms? Dave's about to injure his neck. He's shaking his head so fast. If not, what would standard in the industry be? When we met, I suggested 30-minute appointments at a flat rate of $75, which would include any manual therapy, needling, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry if these. Okay, thanks in advance for any insight. Dave, thoughts?
Okay, first of all, David Bailiff is a good friend of mine who runs the Uncaged Clinician, and if this person, by the way, you just use the search feature. This has been posted on and off for years in that group and in every group, in the cash-based physical therapy business success group. I mean, this exact thing has been posted before. So people don't even, that's one thing that annoys me with all the Facebook groups, by the way, is people just ask questions and are like, hey,
yeah.
And it's like, there's a search feature that shows like 5 years of questions. And then
I know, but have you met people?
That's why I'm leaving more and more of these Facebook groups. Okay.
I know.
Okay. So by the way, so you mentioned a couple things about the style, about risk aversion, all that. So one thing that Sturdy McKay, my business partner, mentioned to me is the physical therapy profession actually attracts more of those people. People that want security, they want a salary, they don't want to go out on their own, all that. And that post right there is a signal, because if you're even asking about that, I mean, this is not a business really. Like, this is not you being an entrepreneur. This is like you're an
employee, right?
Yeah, you're an employee basically. So, I mean, the uncaged clinician, uncaged means helping you like get uncaged from the whole like healthcare system and working for someone else and going out on your own, right? Like, that's the whole point of this group. And then this person is asking a question that is not really reflective of going out on your own. This is such an immature question that this person is obviously not serious. And this is a terrible deal. This is a terrible deal because you're not going out on your own. The place is going to provide the EMR. You're a therapist. You need to go shop around, do demos, speak to different EMR companies, see which one you like. You pick it. You build your own business. You provide your own tools, your own supplies, your own needles, table, cups, all that. Some other place is going to provide all this, like, that's just another job. Why even post this in an entrepreneur group? So, and then the anonymous post is just, it's almost below my line, Jimmy. It is.
Oof.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Almost.
Because
people are afraid of these things.
If someone goes in one of these Facebook groups and posts a question with their name next to it, guess what happens sometimes? People will comment below, oh, that sounds like me, or, oh yeah, I was in that same situation. Then you get messages, you'll send it. People will, other therapists like you will send messages, a direct message. And then you get more networking, you get more connections, you get to hear from other folks that reach out to you. When you post anonymously, it's so selfish. There's no collaboration. There's no sharing of information and experiences. It's very, very selfish. Go ahead, Christine.
Well, Christine is not anonymous. She chimes in. She says, I'm looking at the same model, but she's offering a 70-30 split. Provider 70. Is that better? I mean, it's better. It's better than 50-50. Where do you feel on that? I mean, that feels a little more fair.
That sounds awesome, Christine, if you can make that work and if you can attract providers. So Christine is on the business owner side. Sounds great. I mean, so other business models, by the way, with physical therapy, so brick and mortar, whatever, like they want to have their whole salary compensation bucket, like total compensation bucket at like 55 to 60%. So if she can give that extra margin to the therapist and she's only looking to do 30% pre-tax and make it work, interesting. Maybe we should have her on the show. I mean, it sounds great. It sounds like doable. I'd be curious. I don't know Christine, so I'm gonna have to connect with her, and I don't know if she's brick and mortar or mobile or what.
But now we do, because she didn't answer anonymously, and that's
exactly. So now it's like, okay, I could go connect with Christine on Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever, see what she's doing, maybe refer therapists to her. Maybe I get referrals, and then I get a referral in that state, and then I think of Christine, and then I refer a patient, and then she benefits downstream from that, but not when you post anonymously.
Tony, I didn't see your comment on that thread, and I just brought it up and didn't see it. So if you want to chime in here. Oh, wait, maybe I did see his comment on that.
Here we go.
No, this was something different.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't see that comment on the thread. So if you want to chime in there, I love when you guys comment now or later, because I love sitting there and responding or hearing the different opinions. And I don't even know how to respond anonymously. What else is on Dave's mind? I know we have Freedom coming up on Thursday. Everybody it's 100% off on Thursday.
Yes, we do have the holiday weekend, or in the 4th of July on Thursday. I almost said Saturday. Today's Tuesday.
You make your clinicians work on Friday. If like this year, July 4th falls into Thursday, are you open on Friday?
Well, my therapists make their own schedule, so if they want to, yes.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
So they have their own. It's your call.
Yep.
Let's see. I also brought in. This was another question asked in LinkedIn. I'm stealing this from Cody Thompson. Promised we'd mention this. Here's a question he asked. Cody asks, I'm calling on my cash pay gurus for answers to these questions. Is there any reason a solopreneur cash pay therapist couldn't or shouldn't accept a student for clinical education? If you can, do you charge the patient if the student is providing care? This is like a rules and regs question. And later clinical rotations. If so, do you charge more/less?
I would charge the same dollar amount.
Because as a student, they can't necessarily bill. They can't bill. Not necessarily. They can't bill. They're a student. It is under your license. You are the one providing the care. They might be providing care under your supervision. Someone's going to tear me apart for how I'm saying these things.
I get what you're saying. So let's just say, like, if a practice is charging $250 per visit, so he's saying cash pay, out of pocket physical therapy. So if a practice is charging $250 a visit, and you're solo, and you don't have a student, and you charge $250, and then 2 months later now you have a student, it should just be the same dollar amount, because the therapist is still going to be there. Like me or whoever, the therapist has to still be there. The student is not being paid, because we covered that before. The student is going through a clinical rotation, which they're paying their school. The practice potentially benefits, because maybe we want to eventually hire that therapist, so we get to, we don't get paid either, but we also have arguably free labor. But our therapist still has to be there, so it's like not really like. We're still paying for that labor. I'm paying for my therapist to be there. So there's a couple free rides there going on. You charge the same dollar amount. I don't understand. Like, I mean, sometimes these questions, either on LinkedIn or Facebook, I don't know about this guy. Hold on. Sometimes the questions are coming from like marketers, and it's like they're trying to,
for engagement.
They're for engagement. And there's a couple names. There's a couple names I could mention if you wanted, but like. It's obvious. It's obvious. Like,
yeah. I mean, I ask conversation starters too.
I know, but you don't do it from a sense of like, then, so there'll be these marketers or these physical therapy business coaches. They ask questions. You click on their profile, and they're a business coach consultant, and then also like maybe a practice owner or like a clinic director or something.
Got it.
So they want owners to like comment. And then they start a conversation with them in the comments, and then they try to take it to DM, and then they try to pitch them their paid coaching.
We're still doing that. I think also like part of this question is like, is there any reason a solopreneur cash pay therapist couldn't or shouldn't accept a student for ClinEd? Tony not here today, but he's commenting. He says, I'm not cash based, but I would say yes, they should be accepting students. The value really isn't the patient treatment. It's not that you can or can bill more, less, whatever. It's a chance to understand. It's a chance for the student to understand and experience the process. He tells students that they will have the rest of their career to treat patients. The value in a clinical rotation is to get inside the business owner's head or the CI's head and understand why they are doing what you're doing.
So much wisdom there.
So much wisdom. And he's not even here, but he's here, but he's there, but he's not here.
He's everywhere.
Did you have good clinical experiences? Do you look back fondly?
I did. I mean, my first one was at a skilled nursing facility, which, I mean, I don't think you could pay me to work at a place, but again, people need it, and it's a valuable place, in the whole ecosystem. My eventual mentor and coworker, eventually I met there. He was like working part-time at the SNF, and then he got me my job at the physician-owned practice, helped negotiate my salary and all that. So again, back to networking, whatever. Hospital rotation, I was like a day in, 2 days in. I mean, it was like, it was like 8 weeks long. 1 or 2 days in, I'm like, I am never working in a hospital. This is not my style. And then my 2 outpatient ones, Market Street in Philly with Moss Rehab, that was awesome. And then outpatient for 4 months in South Jersey. And I was like, yeah, outpatient is obviously my jam. I didn't do any home. I did like 1 home visit with my mentor, whatever, but definitely fond memories of rotations. Like it was a time for, I don't know, like also it was like way less stress than studying in physical therapy school. Right. So yeah. It was, even though you weren't being paid, it was like, this is much better than studying for a bunch of exams. So like I had a great time. How about you?
This will surprise you. One of my CIs said, wow, I've never had someone who could tell the same story 26 times in a day and change it up a little bit. I'm like, yes, I was in radio for 15 years. We essentially said the same thing 1,000 different ways. There's only so many different ways I can tell you that Limp Bizkit is coming to the Toyota Pavilion on next Thursday. I've got to keep changing it up every single time. So that was fun. Tony did a double rotation at IMG Academy in Bradenton. Oh, that's the big like funnel for going pro.
Oh, wow.
NBA and pro tennis players. Great experiences, a lot of cash pay. Different environments, man. I'll tell you, your DCE, your director of clinical education, has a really big impact on your experience in PT school. And some schools have a lot of interaction between students in the DCE, and some it's like nothing. I think I had a 20-minute conversation with my DCE, and she's like, I understand you. And as the narrator voice should be playing in your head right now, she in fact did not understand me. But she was responsible for where I was going to be placed for how many weeks. And this is probably time for a different conversation, but it's like an interesting dynamic. And I know it's always been this way, and that should scare people, but different schools have drastically different processes for getting your next clinical placement. I would actually love to hear what the process is like from the audience, because it can highlight there's not 2 ways. There's like 50 different ways that students get placed, and how they can sort of advocate. Not at all. There's ranking systems. There's one school who does it as a live draft, almost like we just had at the Sphere with the NHL draft. So I would love to hear from the audience if you'd like to hear about that, because everything should be up for overhaul, or at least looked at as an audit. Like, are we using the most effective model for students who are paying not a little bit of money to be affected by this? And then Tony chimes in, for the record, his DCE didn't help with anything. He made the connection and secured the contract. And that's awesome. Some schools would penalize a student for that. Like, you would not only not get that, like there might be repercussions. Like, so it's just wild, man. And Bo chiming in, go Yankees. But it's wild.
I was going to make a joke and say, I didn't know IMG Academy was around back when Tony was a student, but I said it anyway. Tony, you're not that old, and you have so much wisdom. We love you. We miss you.
All right. We are off on Thursday because I will be having 2 scoops of freedom. I don't know about you guys. I'll be holding a bomb pop, doing backflips into my pool. Bo did a simple ranked choice. I did nothing. It was like fortune cookies. That's what I got. Where are you going? Hey, look at that, right? So that's fun. So ranked choice. I'd love to hear about that. So we're off on Thursday. You should be off on Thursday. Don't listen to any, like, this is the anti-podcast and live stream. Don't listen to our podcast on Thursday. Do something with family or friends. Don't buy anything that we sell. Don't consume anything that we make yourselves. Listen to some good old fashioned freedom rock. We used to do that. We would do a weekend on my radio station because everybody loved to hate Nickelback. And I ran a rock radio station. We played Nickelback because people listened when you played Nickelback. But we had a big weekend where we were like, we're kicking out the Canadians. It's a no Nickelback weekend. And it would just be American bands.
Oh my gosh.
But the funny part is you lose a lot of bands that you're like, oh, they're not American. Because a lot of rock bands around the world sound, because they emulate, like they grew up listening to Kurt Cobain. So now, one of the notable bands that I interviewed, Sean Morgan from a band Seether, he, walked in the studio and said, hey, what's up? And I'm like, oh, wow, gigantic. I mean, he's from South Africa. I knew that, but like huge accent. I'm like, oh, you literally turn it on. So anyway, we went down a rabbit hole. But anyway, do something freedom related. And I want you to come back with all your fingers and toes. Firework accidents are not okay. These are your livelihoods for some people. So don't do that.
And by the way, I was just texting with Brian Williams, one of my buddies, who's been on your show a bunch.
Oh, I know Brian. He was at Marymount University. We went to the same PT school.
Yeah. So last week he said that he went to a Rolling Stones concert. I was like, they're still touring? And then he said they just came out with an album. I was like, they're creating more new music? Amazing.
Why wouldn't they?
Amazing.
Why wouldn't they?
Impressive.
All right, Dave, parting shot.
Parting shot, easy peasy. Here we go. Bring the numbers. All right. If you're looking to negotiate your salary or you're doing your OCS, your advanced certification, and then you're like, hey, what's in it for me? What's the pay bump? What's, this? Bring the numbers. If that doesn't work, maybe you need to leave that place, or you need to say, okay, am I at the ceiling of compensation for this role, even with an OCS or whatever? If I'm at the ceiling, what other responsibilities or tasks can I do for more compensation? And some therapists might not like that. So if you don't like it, then you leave, you go find another job. But if you're at the ceiling of compensation at whatever practice you're at, then it might be like you need to do other stuff, right? It might be this, it might be video content, audio, it might be social media posting, it might be other marketing initiatives, whatever. But like if you get to a point where you're at the ceiling somewhere, regardless of the customers, the healthcare, the reimbursement, the payment model, whatever, then the next thing would be more responsibilities, which would also be, more time and effort. And if you don't like that, then leave, go somewhere else, find another job, but bring the numbers, start with that, compare yourself to other clinicians in the practice, in the company that have the same type of like role and maybe even years of experience. And if there's a difference there, then it should be clearly evident to your decision maker, your boss, whoever, to give you a pay bump. And again, if that doesn't work, reach out to me. Maybe you could relocate to New York City, or you could go work somewhere else.
With great power comes great responsibility, right? If you're going to get a bump, there's going to be more responsibility. That's okay, but it should be commiserate with the impact you bring. Dave went objective. I'm going to go subjective. You don't walk into the batter's box without understanding what the strike zone is or how things work. So open those lines of communication. Ask before you sign up and drop $1,600 on a clinical specialist exam. Hey, what is this going to do for my career? What could that do here? Now, I'm not saying that money should be the only driver for educating yourself. I'm going to hard say that. I am not saying that. But understanding what your value is so that you can help more people and then be compensated for that so you can stick around and help more people. This is cyclical. So Dave went with objective. My parting shot is subjective. Communicate early and often and know the rules of the game. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE at CONCIERGE painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.